How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today, I'm going to go to the few trades that I took on ES and NQ. Ended up green overall. Started the day with a couple losing trades. We'll get into those. Finished up with a few winning trades that brought me back to green. So we'll look at some of the zones I was watching. We'll look at why I took the trades that I did and how those played out. On the daily time frame here, we're just on zoom into an hourly time frame and take a look at kind of where we were heading into the day and what I was watching. So coming into the day, we had Friday's high and low designated by these green and red levels. We had this zone kind of corresponding to Friday's high around like 5-215 to 5-218 or so. Was watching for a potential rejection up here. You know, we had a big sell-off on Friday in the after hours in the pre-market. We were trending up, coming up into this area. This was an area I was watching for rejection. Didn't quite get up there. The next zone I had was this area around 5-194 to 5-192 or so. To the downside, we had 5-173, we'll say, to 5-171. Around Friday's low day, we had 5-153 to 5-149 or so. And then a zone down here I forgot to extend into today's session. We can do that and just see how it played out. But that was around 5-122 to 5-126 or so. So coming into the day, what I was watching was a potential rejection up in this zone. Like I said, we didn't quite get that. Otherwise, I'm just watching for price action to form a trend, and then I'm watching for breaks and retests of key levels such as higher highs, higher lows, or bounces or rejections off of these zones. So to open the day, I actually took a trade in the pre-market. I was watching, we had this long wick up here in the pre-market. We pushed up, wicked off it again, wicked off it again. I entered a short position in here, somewhere around 5-10, so somewhere right around in here. My stop was above this wick, and my target was 5-204. So I was risking, about, we'll say, 2.5 points to the upside, maybe 3 points to the upside. For 6 points to the downside. So about, a little under a 3-to-1, a little over maybe a 2.5-to-1 risk to reward ratio. Why did I like this area? I like this area because looking at this 5-minute, like I said, we had some weakness, right? We pushed up, got a really long wick up top. This was after news came out. In the morning, we got a push up and then wicked down. We were still kind of climbing up, but we were just wicking in this general area. Showing that there were some sellers present, and I was watching this area, this zone just above us, for potential rejection as well. So seeing that we were getting close to it and seeing some selling happening, I felt confident to take a short position here. How did this play out? Well, unfortunately, this wick stopped me out by maybe 1/4 of a point. So just barely stopped me out right here, and then we came down and hit my target pretty much exactly on the open. So started the day with a loss. I entered pre-market. I haven't traded pre-market or after hours on futures yet. That's a benefit of futures, is that you can trade these sessions. Tried my hand at it today because I liked the way we were looking, thinking that we'd open up weak. We did. Like I said, I got stopped out just barely. So what is the lesson that I've learned on this? And this is a lesson that I'm kind of carrying from last Wednesday when I had my big loss, is that when I see us wicking around up in this area, where do I want to enter? I want to enter as close to the top as I can, right? Because that allows me to have a tight risk to reward. If we continue to break up, then this trade is invalidated. If we continue to make higher highs, then I know that there's no longer validity to us rejecting off this area. If we just bust right through it, that shows strength. That shows that we broke through a previous resistance and that we have momentum to the upside, right? I entered a little late. I saw start to reject. I think I entered probably on this candle or maybe this candle, one of these two. After we had a few rejections in this area, I entered. the lesson to learn here is if we see an area that we like, we see some liquidity or supply demand, and I'm watching us reject off this area, I want to enter as close to the top of those wicks as I can. Ideally, I would have entered somewhere around here, 5-2-12 or so. 5-2-13 would have been insane of an entry. But I want to enter as close to those wicks as possible. And that allows me to still, not that I put my stop, at my entry or something, insane like that. I could put my stop, say, up here. I could just pick the next whole number, 5-2-14, somewhere up there, and say, okay, if we break to the upside, that gives me, a pretty tight risk to reward. Or, if this is at 5-13, we could even move this up. We could even move this, 2 points or so. And that gives me a solid risk to reward if I'm looking to target, 5-2-04. That gives me still like a, 3-to-1 risk to reward. But it also allows me to have that excellent entry. Entries and exits will make or break your trading, no doubt. If you get bad entries consistently, you're going to have a hard time. Because once you see some of that drawdown, if you enter somewhere in here and we push all the way up here and you're already down 5 points, that can affect you emotionally, watching that loss maybe be bigger than what you want. You say, I can't take it anymore, you exit, and then it turns around. So lesson learned here. I entered a little early, and this is something that I did last Wednesday as well. We were trading within a range, and I didn't enter at the top or the bottom of the range. If you're in a range or if you're at a point of like rejection or bouncing, I want to enter, as close to where I'd have my trade invalidated as possible, just to allow myself to take proper risk reward and have a little bit of wiggle room. So first trade right here, got stopped out, market opens, hit my target. That was a little bit of a bummer, right? That would have been a pretty nice trade right off the open. But nonetheless, started with this loss. I'm going to hop over to NQ because my next trade and my only trade of the day was this trade on NQ. And this is also a loss. So let's take a look at it. I had this zone, and I'll back out here so we can take a look at some of the stuff I was watching on NQ, right? High and low from Friday. We had this zone in here. I'm not going to get into it too much. We had this zone in here, and we had this zone down here, as well as this zone down here. What was I watching? Similar, on NQ, maybe a potential rejection off Friday's high, which we got pretty nice off the open. But other than that, we were looking for the day to establish a trend, watch how we interact with these zones, and kind of go from there. The zones on NQ, I think I might need to rechart them. They don't seem to have played out as well, but take a look. So NQ is a little bit weaker off the open than ES. We had this massive drop on that 5 minute, rejected off of Friday's high. So this is also, I was watching this pre-market as well when I entered that ES short, because we came up and we were rejecting, same thing, right? Wicked up into this area, wicked up and wicked up. Start rejecting, and we're failing to break above Friday's high a day. So this was also kind of giving me confidence to take that short position on ES. But nonetheless, we got a really big rejection. As we started coming up and retesting this area, I took a short right in here on NQ. A single contract, I took a single short position. My stop was 18-91, essentially, just right above this zone. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. It was about like a 13-point stop because I entered somewhere in here around 18-80, put my stop up here around 18-91 or so. We busted right through this. I got stopped out pretty fast. This was not an excellent trade because I didn't really wait for things to develop, right? It's in the very first couple minutes of the day. We don't really have a trend. We do have some weakness off the open, but we don't have a trend established, and I didn't even have confirmation on a 5 minute that we were looking to reject off this area. What I did have is on the 1 minute. We'll take a look at this. So what I did have was on the 1 minute, we came up and we got these two consecutive wicks, right? We kind of wicked up, wicked up. After I saw this, I entered on this candle here. So when we pushed up in here, I entered, got stopped out on this candle here. So could have waited, could have been a bit more patient, right? I thought with this massive move to the downside, and I guess I could have paid attention to this relatively high volume with this hammer candle here. Typically, you know, you'll get a reversal or at least a bounce when you see that high volume, but that low or small candle and kind of that long lower wick. Maybe some of that exhaustion on that sell down, but nonetheless, this candle, these two series of candles kind of convinced me to get in. I think I saw the velocity of this initial move, and I had that loss on my first trade that, you know, should have really worked out. I just got barely stopped out because I didn't have a ideal entry. So I think this was a little bit forced for sure. So started out the day with 2 losses. At this point, I was down, you know, like $50 or something. Not great at all. So I was holding it together, and let's move on back to ES because this is where I made the rest of my money. So those were my first 2 trades of the day, and I was down. But what I was watching is ES was forming kind of this consolidation, right? We had this trend line to the bottom, trend line to the top, and we were kind of bouncing around within this area. When we broke out of this on the 5-minute, we came up and retested. I entered 3 contracts on MES. So I entered 3 contracts. That's bigger than what I normally trade. I normally trade 1 to 2 contracts. So it took a little bit of risk, but I felt good because I was waiting for this setup, and I entered. You know, I was mentioned that I was watching this consolidation and a break to either side, and when we got it, I didn't want to hesitate and miss. So I did size up because I felt good about this. We broke down. I got in on this candle here. So this candle didn't quite convince me. This candle looked a little bit better. And then we had that confirmation on the 5-minute as well. And then when we came up, I entered 3. I got a really, really good fill. I think I entered, my fill was somewhere around 5206. My stop would have been above 5208. So give myself about a 2-point stop if we push back and kind of reclaim this area. You can see that we had resistance, support, resistance. So if we broke back up into this kind of pennant, this consolidation, I would have stopped out. We didn't though. No drawdown on this trade whatsoever. I pretty much sniped the top, and I'm not trying to give myself too much credit. I did watch for the break and retest of this trend line. That is what I wanted. It just happened to work out really well. So I sold my first contract. We had this move, and then as soon as this candle started printing and moving pretty quick, I sold both my 2 initial contracts somewhere around this low a day. And once we were breaking low a day, I got 2 of my positions out, and I just had 1 contract left. At this point, I was just moving my stop loss down, and I sold my final contract at 5,194. So right in here. As soon as we came down into this zone, I thought that we might get a bounce, or, you know, see some buyers step in this area, and I sold my final contract. I could have held because we dropped, you know, another, I don't know, 15 points from where I sold. So that's insane. That's, you know, what, another $70 on that single contract. So could have just moved the stop loss down. We had no no green candles on the 1-minute. So there's really no major reason for me to get out, other than we were approaching a zone that I was watching, and I already had a pretty nice move, so didn't feel the need to be too greedy here. So this is my 3rd trade, and this brought me to positive overall. At this point, I was up around $30. It was a really nice win, and it's nice to have a trade that works out, you know, kind of perfectly, right? That's as excellent as you can get. That retest, 0 drawdown, drops pretty hard. So yeah, I was really happy with how that played out. The only thing, you know, I probably could have been a little bit better with how I took profits. Obviously, no trade is necessarily perfect, but, you know, had I held more contracts further into this move, that would have been a really, really huge play, like well over $100 trade. So that was pretty solid. From there on, we came up and we retested this zone. I was thinking about entering a short position here, but I did not. And, you know, we kind of got that rejection. We came down, we bounced, came down, and this is my fourth and final trade of the day. I entered a call position in here, or no, excuse me, I apologize. It was, oh man, I'm slipping. No, it was right here. I apologize. All right, we're good. Right in here. So I entered on this candle here, and I trimmed once we hit 5,180. So I took about a 4-point move. I think my entry is probably around 5,176. Why did I enter this? I noticed a pattern. I noticed a pattern that, you know, we made this huge low, we bounced, right? We came down, bounced, came down, retested this area, bounced, came down, kind of retested this area, bounced. Then we made a newer low, right? We got this strong hammer. We had high volume in this area. We bounced. We came down, we start to come down and test it. We get this long wick, a little bit of a bounce, come down. Once again, higher volume. We print a hammer candle, and I entered kind of in this area in here. It was a little risky. I only took a single contract. My stop loss was below here. I think I set it at like 5,174. So I had about a 2-point stop loss for a 4-point take profit. 2-to-1 single contract. Didn't want to risk a whole lot. I risked about $10, and my take profit was 20. So this, you know, maybe it was a little greedy, but I was just watching this pattern of how we were kind of coming down and retesting those lows before making a bounce. And since we had bounced pretty strong from this area again, and we failed to break that low a day here, you know, we came down and we started to hold above that previous low. I just got in on a single contract for a quick scalp. I wasn't expecting a big move out of this. I wasn't expecting a big bounce. I just figured that we could, you know, get a similar bounce to what we were seeing, you know, another, you know, 4-point, 6-point bounce. And I was willing to take that for a quick scalp. Had we broken below this like 5,174 in this low a day, I would have been out for, you know, a $10 loss and would have still been up on the day. So that was it. That was my only trades on the day. You see, in the evening, we had an absolute crazy dump. I'm back out to a higher time frame so we can really appreciate this. But quite a big sell-off. And yeah, certainly leads us into an interesting position heading into tomorrow. That's all I got for you. Thank you for watching. Happy to be back with a better day. Last Wednesday, traded really poorly, broke a lot of my own rules. Didn't respect my stop loss, and that is one thing that I did do today. I had two losers initially, right? My first 2 trades were losing, but I set my stop loss and I respected them. I did size up a bit on this trade, but it was because I felt pretty good about it. And nonetheless, you know, I would have respected my stop loss. If I lost this trade, I would have been out for sure. That would have been it for the day. I really didn't want to. That would have caused me to have a pretty red day. But having that play out gave me the confidence to take, you know, this trade as well down in here. So thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. I trade live Monday through Friday. I'll be here all week. Next week, I'll probably be out doing some traveling. But we're here this week. We're going to try to make the most of it. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.